Now, one important aspect of setting up your document certainly is changing the margins and being able to manipulate those margins. It's going to have a big impact on the final result that you end up with, both in page count and in look and feel of the entire thing. So I want to make sure we know how to set the margins, and it's pretty straightforward here. One way that we have certainly to do it is we can go to the ribbon, we can go to Page Layout tab in the ribbon, and then we have a Page Setup grouping here, and there's a big button here called Margins, and of course that's how you control the margins. The last custom setting is a 1-inch margin on the top, bottom, left, and right of the page, and these are actually Word's default settings here. There's also a setting called Normal, which is almost the same as your last, what you should see for your last custom setting. And then you have Narrow, where you have a 1/2 inch margin on top, bottom, left, and right, moderate, wide, mirrored, and then of course you can apply custom margins. So let's do a wide margin, for example, and see how that impacts the rest of the document. It's also easier to see when I do that, when I use the zoom to change the zoom level of the document. You can see it much more dramatically there. And then of course you can go back and you can change your mind, go back to normal, or go back to actually the default, which is a 1-inch margin. The bottom selection here is custom margins, and that of course opens up a dialog box which lets you once again be very granular and specific about what your margins look like. So your top, left, bottom, and right. Your gutter margin is significant because if you set a gutter margin here, what you're essentially doing is you're setting up a space so that you do double-sided printing, and you're setting up a space so that you can bind whatever text you have. So if you want a little extra space in what's called the gutter so that you don't staple over or spiral bound text that's in your document, that's where you would want to use the gutter. And then once again in the bottom you can apply it to the whole document here. If we click on the default, it will change those default settings. You want to change the default settings for Page Setup, and right now I do not want to do that. So I'm going to cancel out of each of these and go back just to our print view of the document to show you the margins. The other way you can change the margins of your document is that you can choose to display the ruler as I've done up here. So if I go to the View tab of the ribbon and either select or unselect, so if I want to alter the margins, I want to make sure that it is selected. So I can click and drag these two sliders on the right and on the left part of the ruler here, and I'm trying to get the mouse just so, and you can see that the mouse is going to change to a double-headed arrow. So I can bring the right margin in. If I do that, I can bring the left margin in again when I get the double-headed arrow by doing that. The top and bottom margins, of course, then are going to work the same way. I'm going to slide the mouse over to the ruler. It's going to change to a double-headed arrow, and I can pull the top margin down to where I want it. Now, finally, what I want to point out here in this module is that you notice that if I go through the document, all of those changes that I just made to the margins apply everywhere throughout the entire document. Now, do you want that, or do you just want a paragraph, or do you just want a section? Well, the answer is that by default that is going to happen. When you change a margin, it is going to affect the entire document. You can make it just affect one section at a time, however, but you need to make sure that there is a section break, and I'll show you in another module how to insert that section break, which can be very important.